All right, hey, welcome. It's Chris Petri. Thanks so much for coming by. We're doing some extreme beginners watercolor paintings again here. We're actually going to cover some really fun and simple style paintings using the glazing technique. And here I'm going to show you how we're just going to create this whole painting with one 1-inch flat brush, lots of water, lots of paint, colors mixing, beautiful composition, landscape. We're going to kind of like just concentrate on trying to get into the mood of the painting, pretending we're out in a field somewhere, along a farm, in the mountains, along a beautiful area here where we can actually get out there. We'll be in our chairs with our sketchbook and our paints. We have our palette. We have our Prang Oval 16 palette. We're going to be using all of the beautiful oranges, yellows, greens, blues, and purples for this wonderful composition. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and this is a painting that everyone at every level can do successfully. Just a matter of following the steps, and we cover each of the steps here and each of the methods that you need to get this painting done. And again, you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. It's a beautiful painting. It glows because we'll cover all the things you're going to do. You're going to do an underpainting with some orange paint, really light wash of orange, and then you're going to go over the top of this with your greens and your blues and your purples. You'll have a wonderful time doing this painting. So let's get started. All right, this is Chris Petri. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming by. I'm so happy you're here. If it's your first time, you're at the right place at the right time. We're doing watercolors. We're actually creating a beautiful painting in watercolor. We're using lots of water, lots of beautiful colors and washes. We're doing like a landscape painting where we're going to have a really like hazy type of sunny day, kind of that summery feeling. So these are the kind of things we're going to want to do as watercolor artists. We're just going to want to get into the mindset of things. Think of yourself like maybe think of yourself on a vacation or an excursion or a weekend getaway, and you have your easel or your palette or your sketchbook, and you're sitting in your chair and you're in front of a beautiful field with some beautiful mountains in the distance and a nice sky with some really beautiful kind of hazy subdued colors. This is the kind of painting we're going to create here. We're going to use the glazing method. That's correct. You heard me correctly. The glazing method. You'll hear me talk about this all the time on my videos, and of course in my book. You'll see the link to below for my new book. Hope you'll pick my book up. You can see all the wonderful paintings in there. I also have a video that shows you all of the pages of my book, so you don't have to guess on what you're buying as far as what kind of paintings you're going to see in my book. I have all my paintings in a video quickly, about 2-3 minute video. You can see all the pages in my book, and you'll see that I have literally tons of beautiful paintings there in my book, so you can use those to work from, which is great. You have some good stuff to work from. But in any case, this is the kind of mindset we're going to have here. We're going to be, let's feel like we're there. We're in this like landscape. We're sitting down in our chair, or maybe again we're getting into that feeling. It's summertime. It's hazy. It's hot. Maybe it's warm out. We're feeling good. We're getting out there and doing a painting outdoors just to get some ideas on some paper. It's not a finished painting or a perfect painting. We're just going to get some colors on the paper, some values, some tonal values, some washes. Let's think of it that way. So if we get our mind kind of like thinking about this type of setting where we're out there, you'll kind of, I think, have an easier time doing this painting we're going to do. So in the next 20 minutes, half an hour, we're going to actually have a fun time creating this. We'll go over each of the details here that we're going to cover. And I also have all my supplies that I use for watercolor down below in the description box below. Sometimes you have to click on the word more. And if you click on more, you'll see the drop downs of the links you can go to find different products you might want to purchase. You might want to purchase a water container if you're just starting out, a couple brushes. This one actually comes with the Prang Oval 16 set, which is our Extreme Beginner set, and this is an Extreme Beginners video series here on my channel. So you'll always see in the when you're looking at my videos and you're subscribed, and I'm hoping you're going to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. You just click on the right hand side below the subscribe button. You won't miss a thing here. You'll be on the fast track to learning watercolor and learning it efficiently, quickly. You'll make a lot of progress if you stick here. So subscribe to my channel. Don't miss a thing, please. And again, we're going to, below, we're going to have my palette below. You could click on the links below. You'll find all my gear. Again, the water buckets. We have a spritzer bottle. We have brushes, paper, tape, everything. The palette, the Prang oval 16 palette. I'll spritz the palette a little bit here, just as we get started here with this painting. I just want to, that's all you have to do. These Prang palettes are incredible, incidentally. If you're just starting out in watercolor, this is the perfect set to get. All you have to do is really just open it up, spritz it with a little bit of water, and that's it. It's ready to go. And then when you're done painting, you just close it up and put it to the side, or put it in a little bin. Keep yourself a little bin. Keep all your art gear organized in a little bin. If you don't have your own space that you can set up all your gear in, sometimes you have to take some stuff out and put it on your kitchen table or wherever you might not have a studio to work in at first when you first start out in watercolor. So I always mention that too. Get yourself a little plastic bin, put all your gear in there, so this way everything's organized in one place, and then you put the lid on the bin, and then the next time you're going to paint and draw and start creating some watercolors when you're joining along here on the videos, you just pop open your bin, you take all your stuff out, you put it on your table, in your living room, on a stack tray, coffee table, kitchen table, maybe you're in the basement, you got a little desk, you put it on there, whatever. Just remember, try to stay organized with watercolor, because when I first started, I'll just share a little story with you. When I first started watercolor, I had all my art stuff all over the place. Like when I wanted to go create a painting, I literally had to walk all over the house. I was trying to find my brushes. They were in the basement. The paints were somewhere in the attic. I had, it was stuff all over the place. I almost didn't want to paint in the beginning because it took me so long to find everything. It took me half an hour to an hour to just get all my stuff together in one spot and then get it all together and then start working. So don't do that. Make sure you kind of stay organized. Get a bin and put everything in your bin, unless you have a spot that you can actually set up in your place where you live, where you can just leave everything right there and then just come back the next day and just start working again. But if you don't have that situation right now, you might find some creative ways to get that situation set up for yourself, so you do have a little workstation or studio for yourself, or a little spot that you have carved out where you live in your place. If you don't have that right now, or at least have a bin or something, or a crate, and put all your stuff in that when you're done working. And then when you come back to work the next time, you won't be like me roaming around the house trying to find all your art supplies for 2 hours. All right, so don't fall into that pitfall either. All right, so let's get started. So I got my water container. I put that over to my right. We have our brushes. That's over here on the left-hand side. And I have my palette here. Then I have my pencil. I'm ready to go. Now I'm gonna think of just a simple composition. I'm just working from my imagination right now. I'm just gonna think of how can I create a really fun thing for you, so that you'll be able to work from this. So you're gonna work from this painting right now that we're doing. So you might have to hit pause, or do a screen capture, whatever it is. If you're good with technology, or if you're not great with technology, find somebody in your family that's good with it, and they'll tell you how to do a screen capture, or a screenshot on your cell phone, all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about it. There's always a way. You can always find a way. So what I'll do is, we always talk about it here, your space divisions on your paper are really kind of straightforward. Most times you're going to have your horizon line, which would be like the edge of your water if you're doing a seascape painting, or this painting happens to be a landscape. The eye level, or the horizon line, is usually where you see the distant line of where the sky meets the land. That's all it is, really. So the horizon line is basically where your land meets your sky, or where your ocean meets your sky, or whatever type of landscape you're doing. Usually it's either you're doing a landscape, so you're going to have your mountains, or your mountains are touching the sky, or your fields. And if you're doing like an ocean painting or a seascape, then that's where your ocean meets your sky. So we always talk about, usually the most pleasant place you're going to want to put that line is about 1/3 of the way up, or 2/3 of the way up. So if you want a large sky in your painting, then you'll put your land, so you'll put your land down here, across here, where your mountains are, or your fields and things like that. And then you'll have a larger sky up here. Let me do it on a piece of paper here. I could demonstrate it quickly. Okay. Thank you for your patience while I get a piece of printer paper. And I always have to be careful of printer paper. If I use Sharpie marker, it'll bleed through and start messing up my watercolor paper. So I'm going to get a couple extra pieces of printer paper here and do this. So what we're saying is, when you're setting up either your seascapes or your landscapes, or your city scenes even for that matter, if you're doing some cityscapes or city scenes, basically you're just, let's say we'll do the two easy ones. Let's do the landscape and a seascape. So let's say we're going to do this landscape and we want to kind of go about halfway up or a third of the way up with our land. So let's call this about a third of the way up here. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So if you break your vertical lines going across your paper like this into thirds, you'd say your first third is your land. So this is going to be our land here, our field, with some trees and things like that, whatever it is here, right? We're doing some things like trees and whatever it is, like that. And then the sky is going to be your 2/3. So this will be your sky, 2/3 of the way. 2/3 sky, 1/3 land. That's a real beautiful landscape style composition that you can set up. Let's say you're doing a seascape and you want to do mostly ocean. Then you could do it maybe up here and do your ocean up here, your horizon line here, where your ocean is here. So you have 1/3 sky and 2/3 water. So now you have all your ocean waves over here. Maybe a little bit of beach here with the sand, a little bit of sand in the beach here and some ocean waves, things like this, right? And then up here you have your sky. So you can set up your landscapes or your seascapes or even your city scenes with this basic idea of you can adjust your horizon line either 1/3 up from the bottom or you go 2/3 up from the bottom. Once in a while, you might want to do it about halfway. Most times if you hear professional artists talk about this, or historians or people that are purveyors and or actually purchasers of art that are like going around and they're going to museums and they're going to art galleries to buy and purchase art or to see what's out there and what's looking good, they're going to probably most times say they don't like to see your painting divided in half like this. But you can break that rule once in a while. So there's no absolute rules with painting and with watercolors in your design of your paintings. But most times this is called a half and half trap. Half and half trap. And what that kind of says is, a lot of times if you divide your paper directly in half and you do like half land and half sky with some clouds and things, dividing the paper in half doesn't look most times that pleasing. You can make it work, and a lot of artists, great artists in history, have done it this way. Once in a while they'll create a painting that looks like this. But most times you will see that professional artists that are out there that are creating paintings for galleries and museums and things like this, they're going to stick with the kind of tried and true, keeping your horizon line about 2/3 from the bottom up, or 1/3 up from the bottom, or 2/3 up from the bottom for your horizon line, where you're going to have your ocean horizon line or your land horizon line and maybe some mountains in the back here like this. Just a little note on composition. That'll go a long way for you. So if you're creating your own paintings or you're working from photographs or books or anything like that, you can kind of always use this as your kind of like go-to. Most times you're going to want to shoot for something where you're breaking up your painting, in thirds. It's kind of like a nice way to divide the rectangle like this. Whereas the half and half, like so, that can be a little problematic. It doesn't quite look as pleasing most times, and a lot of times, again, professional people that are purchasing art, going to galleries, looking to buy art, so forth, they're going to look at this and say, well, they're going to in their mind think they would rather see it this way than, or this way than this way, dividing your painting in half like that, right, directly in half. Just a kind of information you can use. You're the artist, you'll kind of make of it what you will, but that's kind of what we're going to do here now. So let's say the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get that about 1/3 here for our land. So let's do that. Let's make it 1/3 here. Let's make the land a little bit sloping. So I'm going to, maybe we're going to take this and just make this, we're going to slope the land a little bit. So we're not going to make it level. We're going to kind of make a little bit of a downhill slope from the right to the left. So let's do that. So I'm just going to take my pencil and just go across like that and do that. Okay. And again, we're following that rule. This is about 1/3 up, 2/3, 3/3. Now, let's just say, let's make some mountains up here. And let's do that. Okay, now these mountains right here, going across here, up here, like this, rolling mountains, that's fine. That's going to go about halfway up the page. But the strong line here for the distant fields, that's going to be 1/3 up from the bottom approximately, and then you have a halfway with your mountains. Okay, that's all right. And then up here we're going to have our clouds and things and our sky wash. So now we're all set up. This is all you need for this painting. The only thing I would say, maybe here we'll do a little bit of maybe there's a little bit of some trees over here. I'll put a little bit of some trees, just a little sketch there, some trees like this. Couple of lines going this way. So you might make a couple directional lines. So I'll make them darker so you can kind of see I'm doing this. And then I'm making some trees over here like this on this side over here. And then what I'll do is I'll erase that a little bit so that those dark lines won't show up as much. But this is about it. This is all you need for this painting, is to get your horizon line for the distant fields that we have here 1/3 up from the bottom of the page, and then from there we have a little bit more up here. We have some rolling hills, distant mountains and hills like so, and then the rest is going to be sky up here. The two-thirds pretty much, or close to 2/3 will be the sky up here. So wow, we have covered a lot of stuff right here in the beginning of the video, but that's okay. I'm sure you're following along. If you got to stop the video sometimes and like rewind a little bit and then go over it a second time just to kind of get everything straight, please do that. Don't feel like you just have to watch the whole video the whole way through and work with it and kind of rush yourself through things. Don't rush if you don't want to. If you want to do it faster, well, that's fine too. You're the artist. You're going to figure out how you're going to get through these videos. But I always mention, when you're working with these videos, it's meant to be user-friendly for you. So stop the video when you need to, rewind a little bit, go over things a second time if you need to. But that's the main thrust of this, was getting the drawing done and understanding the composition of things, where we want to kind of have those space divisions correct when we start. And then once you have that, then you really have a beautiful composition already penciled in, and then you're ready to paint. And so what I'll do now is I'll just kind of erase a few lines just to lighten them up a little bit. Like that. But you know already what we did here. You saw what we did, and you put those onto your paper, and now you're ready to paint. So let's take a quick break. What we'll do next is, after we take about a 5-10 minute break, we'll come back, we'll mix our colors on our palette. We'll get all the colors we need right in our palette. And I mention this a lot. If you're just starting out in watercolors, wow, make it your life easy. Get all your colors first, put into your palette. And then when you have all your colors in here ready to go, then it's just a matter of starting your painting and getting all your colors washed onto your painting, onto your paper. And then occasionally you'll need to add a little more color, but you already have all the colors in here, so you'll know what you need to add by just looking at it and saying, oh yeah, I need a little more yellow in there. I got to have some more yellow, or I need some more green over here. So you'll just take your colors as you're working and add more to it if you need to. But you first want to start out with all the colors you're going to need for the painting, especially for this kind of a painting. We're going to be moving actually kind of quick on this one because we're doing the glazing technique. We're going to be washing this whole paper with water and then getting some really beautiful colors on here quickly. All right? All right, so let's get started with the painting next. Okay, so we're picking back up again. I just wanted to mention here we have some brushes. These are the brushes that I use from the Princeton Art and Brush Company. Again, I have that down in below in the links below. All my art supplies and brushes and paper and palettes and all that good stuff. So, but what I wanted to just mention here is when you have a good sized sheet of paper like this here, so you can work small, or you can work on small sheets of paper, medium sized sheets, or you can even work in really large sheets of paper with watercolor. The only thing is you have to adjust your brushes. So if you're working on a medium sized paper like this happens to be approximately, I would say, 8 by 10. Let me see if I'm correct. I'm just gonna, sometimes I trim my paper with scissors and I really don't keep a track of what they are, but I'm correct. Yeah, that's an 8 by, yes, an 8 by 10. So an 8 by 10, you know, you'd need like something like this, like a 1-inch brush. This is a 1-inch watercolor brush, synthetic hairs, and again, I have this down below, Princeton Art and Brush Company. They come in a pack of 6 for like $10. You can get 6 brushes, like 2 or 3 square brushes, flat brushes like this, a couple of round brushes, and you're all set. So what I'll do is now, the first thing we're going to do here is the first glazing. That's really important to understand, that your first glazing is your fun glazing. You're not even breaking a sweat or having any kind of worries. You're just taking the fresh, clean water from your water bucket. So you have fresh, clean water like this in your water bucket. And you're just going to first put a little light bit of water on the whole paper, starting from the top, and you just work it on down. Just a coating of you know, clean water to dampen your paper. You don't want to flood the paper out with too much water. Just coat it with a nice even coat, the same way if you're painting a wall in your house, if you're painting a room in your home, or some trim on your house, or if you're painting an old dresser or some kind of furniture, a chair, a table. You just want to put one coat of clean, fresh water across the whole paper, and that's all you have to worry about right now. And then once you do that and you've covered the whole paper, you just go over it maybe one more time, just like this, just to get the paper damp. That's all you want to do. Then you let it sit like this. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say we're looking for a hazy hot summer day. So we're going to add some orange over here and some yellow. So orange and yellow, that's going to be our first glazing, and it's going to be ever so slight. Can you see how this is very, very light? There's not much paint on there at all. Maybe a little bit of, a little tiny bit of red, maybe even a little bit of purple. So you can kind of see how I've mixed the ever so slight amount of colors on here, and that's what we want to do. We want to, the main color though we want to do is a very light orange, and then we just want to go over this whole painting with that light orange like this, and that's going to give us that undertone on the watercolor paper that we need to give this that feeling of being like summertime, where it's warm and hazy and warm and hot. And we're out here and we're painting on location on our lawn chair with our sketchbook, having a great time. Maybe we have a beverage with us and we're just relaxing, and maybe we have a couple artist friends that are with us painting. We're all out here in the landscape, some beautiful place somewhere. We'll just pretend in our minds we're here, and then we're just going to go right across the whole painting like that with the orange. So you can kind of see how I did that. And that's just the undertone. And now that's all you have to do. That's your first glazing, your first wash. Then what you do after this is you have to let this dry. If you don't use a blow dryer, you're going to need to let this dry a couple hours, probably, hour to 2 hours, or overnight, or a couple days later you can begin your painting again. That's fine. But you at least need to let it dry so that your paper is flat again and there's not buckles in your paper. Because right now we added all this water to our paper. The paper is now buckled like this. I don't know if you can see that, but it is buckled because the water's fibers are all filled with water, and the paper swells with water, and it kind of buckles like this. Once it dries, it all goes back to a tight bit of paper like it was when we first started. So that's what we have to do. We have to make sure this gets back to a flat, tight state, and then we can go over with our subsequent washes. So at this point, I will stop the tape and I'll use a blow dryer and dry this off. If you have a blow dryer, that would be great, because this way you can just kind of like do this. You blow dry for like 5 minutes at most, and you'll see that the paper will dry and it'll all flatten out again just right, as long as you have it taped on the outsides. Incidentally, I just mentioned if you use gum blocks, they're called gummed watercolor blocks. a lot of manufacturers of paper create gummed watercolor blocks. Then you don't have to tape around your paper. You can just paint on the gummed block, and it's already going to dry just right for you when you're doing these glazings like this. But if you're just using sheets of paper, then you have to tape everything like this around the whole 4 sides of your paper. So hopefully that makes sense. And let's let this dry. Again, I'm going to take 5-10 minutes, another break, use my blow dryer, dry this all off with the blow dryer, and we'll come back and we'll show you how to do your second and third washes. I think the second wash is going to be really the main wash we'll do next. That's going to kind of pretty much get the painting complete, but that second wash might need another third wash over the top just to do a few more darker tonal values like we'll share when we're coming back. Okay, all right, so I hope this is really fun for you. This first process right here with the first glazing is kind of not too hard. A little bit of orange paint, a little bit of yellow paint, maybe a little red if you want, or purple. But if you just stuck with the orange, a little light wash of orange over the whole paper, you're fine. But it's got to be really just a little subtle amount. It can't be too much. And then that's the key to it, because it's just got to be a little bit of glow underneath your painting that you're going to create over the top of this. That's going to give it that summery, warm, hot, sunny feeling. Okay, all right, great. So let's come back in a few minutes and we'll get started with the rest of the painting. All right, so we're back again, and we have our paper. We used the blow dryer to dry everything off really nice, so now it's perfectly dry. Now we're going to go over with our second glazing. So what I do is, my water is still quite clean and fresh and clean and pretty much crystal clear here. You know, we only used a tiny bit of orange and yellow and a little bit of red and purple, but very, very light washes, so our watercolor, our water didn't get muddied up too much, so we can keep using that. That's fine. And then now for this second wash, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go over again with the light wash, clean water, fresh clean water, very light, just to dampen the paper. Go all the way across your paper. Same ways, again, if you're painting a wall in the house or some furniture or some kind of craft or hobby thing that you might be doing when you paint something, you know, you just add enough water to just have it dampen the paper, but you don't want to flood on too much water. And that's all you need, like that. And then what you'll do is you'll go straight away into your paints to start mixing the colors we're going to use for this beautiful landscape. So I'm just going to I'm going to say right now we're going to use some yellow. We're going to use some yellow for our landscape. That'll be some of the field colors, the grass and fields. Then we're going to go in and we're going to grab some greens up here. Some darker greens up here, like that. Then I think for the sky colors, we're going to use some sky washes like this. Some blue. Touch of brown to kind of get a little bit of a little more blue. So I'm just experimenting with the colors, and I'm looking at the colors right now as I see this. And I'm kind of seeing, yeah, this is looking pretty good. Maybe some purple down here. So that's going to be some of the purple, maybe mountain areas we're going to have in the distant mountains. And some greens for some of the greens that we need. And what else might we need here? I think once you get these colors in, you're pretty much home free. You might need a little bit of purple. I'm a little more purple over here. I think I'm going to use some purple. Maybe over here. I'll just mix it over here. Like that. So I'm going to mix some purple there. And we have, again, some greens over here. Darker greens up here. And then for these greens, let's add a little brown to them, or even orange. Add some orange to your green, just to kind of make them a little more subtle. Okay, so if you touch a little bit of orange into your greens, you're going to notice they're going to get a little more relaxed looking and not too high intensity. That's what you want to have, a little bit more, less high intensity with your greens. You want to keep them kind of like that olivey green. I think the olivey green looks much better than if you have that really bright dark green that sometimes can really just look quite a bit off from what you'd want to see in a landscape. And we're kind of having a beautiful hot sunny day here, so you're going to kind of see there's kind of like a haze, so the haze is going to make everything kind of look a little bit diffused and lighter and like mistier. That's what I'm kind of trying to say here, is it's going to look misty and hazy right now when we're doing this. So we have the paper, it's damp, and let's get our greens in, and we'll start using our greens in the bottom of the painting. And I'm using, again, this 1-inch brush here. And I think that's really, we could just use this 1-inch brush the whole painting. I don't think we need to use any other brushes for this. So there we go. We have that first bit of green. Let's use some of that darker green down here. If you need to mix some more greens, you just go in there and say, okay, I see I need to add more greens. Maybe I need to add a little brown to my green to get that a little darker here at the bottom. And you do that, you get yourself a little bit of the darker colors in the foreground here, closest to us. So if you can imagine, in this painting, I'm just kind of bringing this up for kind of the sake of trying to create a little more depth in the painting and make it look three-dimensional. Usually in the beginning, when you're painting the painting, you just want to keep in mind your darker tonal values, your darker colors, are going to be in your foreground, closest here on the bottom of the page, the bottom of the rectangle, the bottom of the painting. And then as you go into the distance, the colors get lighter. So you're going to make your colors for your grass and your trees and things like this lighter as you go further into the distance, going this way, backwards, into the painting. So now let's get some of that yellow. We said we were going to use some yellow. And have fun with this. Just kind of get it in there. Get some yellow in there. Over here, get some of that yellow. Okay. Back here, some more yellow. And then if you kind of see you're going to want to maybe soften these things up a little bit, then you might go in, you might rinse your brush off and dry a little bit of the water off your brush. Sometimes you're going to need to dry off some water off your brush so you don't have too much water on there now. And then you might have some more of that yellow. You might take some of that straight yellow paint and get that in there like this over here, just to have a little bit of that exciting kind of golden yellow, lemony yellow almost, right there in that portion of the painting. And then again, I rinse my brush off and I dry off a little bit of water on the paper towel or tissue, and I'll get a little bit of that purple. Let's get a little bit of purple in there. So this is just experimenting, having fun. I just wanted to add a little purple into the washes here. Maybe a little more brown and green up here. So let's make a little bit of a darker brown and green. Okay, and a little bit of orange. There we go. See how we just make a little bit of a darker bit of color there? Looks good. Then we might go with a little more orange and purple over here. We'll make some tree type shapes over here. We were kind of looking at that before. So you kind of create for yourself a couple of tree shapes over here, like bushes and trees. Over here like that. Like that. I hope this is working for you as you go. So I kind of just want to get that couple of trees and bushes over here. If you want to blot up a little bit, you can do that too. Then over here, let's do some more purple and blue for our mountains over here. Purple, more purple. You see how I'm using more purple and blue? And let's just get that on there just so we have the mountains, and you just kind of do the flow of the mountains like this. Take your brush and just kind of roll along here. That's going to look much better than trying to really go really slowly. If you can just kind of roll your brush across the page, that will get you the mountain range that you're looking for. That's going to look good and realistic. And then you blend that into the distance there like that. And I think that's looking good. And you can also blot up a little bit of paint with a tissue like this and just swipe across with a tissue to blot up some paint if you want. I think we'll add a little darker blue and green here at the base of that mountain. Like that. Those might be distant trees here along the edge of the field. So we have a field here, that grass field all the way across here. And then you have some of those trees along the distant field there, like this. Wow, that's really coming along and looking really good. Now at this point, I'll soften this up a little bit, this edge here. At this point, I want to start doing the sky, but what I noticed was my water is looking very murky right now and muddy looking. You see how that my water is looking a lot of very green and muddy looking? Perfect time, change out your water. So I empty out my water bucket. So now I'll add in fresh, clean water and we'll get ready to do our sky wash. So I'm just going to take a quick break and grab some water from across in my studio. I usually have a lot of cases of bottled water stacked up so I can just drink plenty of water when I'm working. Stay hydrated. It's always important. When you're painting, you want to stay hydrated. Lots of water, drink lots of water. And also, too, you'll have plenty of water. If you have your cases of water, you'll have plenty of water to use for your paintings, or you can use your tap water if you want to as well. But let's keep going here. We have a really good flow going here. We've got our foreground in with our darker greens. Then we moved into our yellows and our light greens here for the field going into the distance, lighter. Everything's getting lighter as it goes back. Then we have our distant purplish mountains, mountain range there, with a little bit of those darker mountains in the foreground. You can add a little bit of more darks to those. Maybe you can change up a little bit there. Like that. So you can kind of maybe add a few little bits of different tonal values here, so you can make some lights and some darks, some different colors there along the fields in the distance here. But once you have that, you're really kind of set. Now what we have to do is get the sky washes in, which is going to be a lot of fun. So let's just take a break. We'll get some fresh, clean water for our sky because our sky is really light. The washes in the sky are going to be very light here, so we don't want to have murky, muddy water. That's why I always say, please, 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 please change out your water. Constantly think to yourself, if you're going to be creating any kind of really light wash on your painting, you definitely need to empty your water and put fresh, clean water in your bucket. If you're doing washes down here like this, where the paint is darker looking, right? Our tonal values here on the bottom of this painting, they're a little darker, so you don't have to worry. You can, if the paint, if the water gets a little bit muddy in your water bucket, you're okay because you're really doing darker washes. But if you want to come up here and do your sky and do some really light washes like we're going to show you right now, that's where you really have to get fresh, clean water in your bucket because you don't want to start adding muddy water to your brush. And then when you go to mix your colors and then you add them on here, you're going to be mixing the colors here plus all the muddy water in here, and that's going to make your washes look really awful. So let's always remember that. When you're doing light washes like in the sky or any place where you have to do light washes where it's not too dark, add your fresh clean water and you're going to be all set. You'll have that really locked in your mind that when you're doing light washes, you need fresh clean water in your water bucket. Okay? All right, cool. Let's come back and we'll get started with the sky wash. All right, we're coming back now. We're going to just mention that we did kind of reiterate over and over again, fresh, clean water is necessary now when you're going to do your sky washer because it's going to be light washes, so we don't want muddy water when we're doing our light sky wash over the top of this beautiful white paper here with just that touch of that orangey kind of warm priming of your watercolor paper. So I also notice here, look at my palette, lots of colors on there. We've mixed a lot, but I think so far we've been safe. But now, since we're doing a light sky wash, we're going to want to clean up our palette. So we're going to want to spritz our palette right now and start off with fresh, clean paint. We don't want to sort of muddy up our sky wash too much, so we're just safer Just cleaning up the palette a little bit. So I'm just gonna, I take a paper towel after I spritz a little bit on my palette there, just a little bit of spritz of clean water, and then I just quickly lift up the paint that was left over in the palette, just like that. Just a really good way to go. Good habit to have if you're doing a fresh, clean wash here in the sky. Better off just starting out with the fresh, clean palette too, and fresh, clean water. So now, what are the washes we're going to use for the sky? The same colors we used before. Blue, which is like that really beautiful cerulean blue type blue there. Okay, so we have that. That's what we used before when we were mixing all these colors down here. Same thing here. We have a little bit of that French ultramarine blue, or a cobalt blue, almost like that. That's just a real all-purpose kind of blue right there. So we have that blue. Then we want to have some purple. We see some purple. Let's use some purple in the sky. And we have the blue and the purple. And then a little bit of green. I wouldn't use this since we used this up here. Let's use this. So I'll use some of this darker green that we used up top here in the Prang Oval 16 set. Incidentally, when you're setting up your colors in your Prang Oval 16 set, I have a video on it. You can just click, I think you click on Chris Petri Oval 16, Prang Oval 16 paint set, and then I'll show you how you set up your paints in your palette. I set them up in a specific order, and I always keep that same order of the paints, always. Because what happens is if you keep your paints in the same exact order every time, so if you run out of a color and you pull one of these little ovals out of here and you put back in a new color, you always keep all your paints in that same location. Eventually you memorize it, and then it becomes like secondary information in the back of your mind. You don't even have to worry about where you're going to go for your colors. You just automatically know your brush will just go right to the color you need, so you're not looking and searching around as you're working, because that'll really slow you down. So always remember that. Keep your palette colors in the same locations every time in your palette, month after month and year after year, and you will definitely benefit from that, because you'll just memorize it, and then it'll be like autopilot. You won't have to worry about it. You'll just do it. You'll go right to your colors you need, and you won't be thinking about it. You'll be thinking about the important stuff, which is what's drying on this paper and how fast do I got to get over there to do it. So we have our colors here, blue, purple. We said we wanted to do that. Blue and purple. Then that nice, actually I didn't, if you ever have a problem, you add some color you didn't want to, blot it up with a paper towel, and then go back in and get the color you needed. A little bit of orange in there. And what else do I see there? A little bit of purple. I have everything. Blue, purple, yeah, and that it looks good. All right, so we have everything we need for our sky wash. Fresh, clean water, and let's do the same thing again. This time, though, when we put these damp washes on our paper for our sky wash, let's not dampen the whole thing. Let's just do it in a few spots here and there, especially up top. Add more damp paper up here and fresh, clean water up here to the top of your page. And then as you get down here by the mountains, just have a little bit of water there, like that. And that should be plenty. Then you go in. A little bit of green, a little bit of green, and blue, purplish, green, blue, and purple. Like that. A little bit of purple there, just a little more purple, a little exciting purple. Wow, that's it. Just a little bit of a cloud maybe or something like that. Oh, perfect. So now you'll see, and I add a couple splashes maybe there. A couple splashes on the, and that's it. That's all we needed there. And then maybe I'll use a little bit of orange just to go across the mountain here like this. And I just put that little bit of orange along there, just a light touch of orange right across there. It's It's only a little bit though. Like that. Then you can take a paper towel if you want, or a tissue, and you can actually take some of the sky wash and you can just blot up a little bit, make some clouds like this. Sometimes you can just kind of gently touch down your paper towel and just blot up a couple of clouds, blot out a couple of clouds. This paper tends to be a little bit softer, so I notice I'm sort of creating a little bit of some paper. I'm kind of marring the paper a little bit, but that's no big deal. But that's all you need to do, and there you have it. You have a beautiful summer type feeling here. A hazy, hot, sunny day. You're out here, you're painting a beautiful landscape. I don't think anything needs to be done here further. I think it looks fine. We can peel off the tape and kind of see how it looks with a little bit of a border on it. And I think you'll be really happy with this. Once you get this completed, you're going to be very, very excited that you can create a wonderful landscape painting, you know, as a beginner, and you don't have to worry. You kind of have covered all your bases. You did your composition in the beginning to get your layout of your landscape correct with some pencil lines. That's all you needed to do, just to understand the kind of process to get your pencil lines correct on there, on the paper. And then after that, we just covered the basic concepts of getting some really, really light glazings on for your first glazing, your first wash, just that light orange with a little bit of yellow if you want. You can mix a couple little extra bits of warmer colors in there, but if you just want to keep it real simple, no big deal. You keep it just a little bit of light orange, the orange over the whole paper, very lightly. And then once you're done with that, it gives it that glow so that when you go over the top with the greens and the blues, it's going to feel like it's kind of warm and hot and sunny. That's a beautiful landscape painting. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you joined along with me to paint this painting. And again, if you're extreme beginners out there, maybe some of you have been painting for a while now, maybe a year or so, and you can create this painting whether you're just starting out or if you've been painting for a while. That's fine. It's really a fun painting for actually all levels of watercolor artists because it's really exploiting the wonderful, wonderful parts of the medium of watercolor, which is lots of water, washes, beautiful colors, diffusing of colors onto the paper, kind of like under painting, showing through, kind of like glowing underneath the washes. This is all just great watercolor basics and fundamentals that you really just, doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you've been painting for a while in watercolor, you're going to really enjoy this type of painting. So I'm glad you joined along. And I always mention again too, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed before on my channel. And I also want to mention too, I do have a brand new channel where we're doing oil painting. So we're going to kind of start out doing some oil paintings. I'm hoping everyone's going to go there and check that out because there's no reason why you can't work watercolors and oil paintings at the same time. We're using water mixable oil paints, which means you don't need any kind of solvents like paint thinners and things like that. You can just use simple water. Almost works the same as the watercolor paintings that we're doing, except oils are a little more rich, they're more luxurious, you get a little more stronger colors, and it gives you a lot more time to work. Watercolors dry really fast. Oils, you could work days on one painting and it won't dry on you. So that's really one of the benefits of oil painting is you can actually take your time and you don't have to rush as much as watercolor. So that's a great thing. If you can kind of embrace that quality of oil painting, you'll go over there and check out my oil painting channel. Maybe just start working with a little bit. Start out very simple, a couple little things like a brush or two and a canvas and a couple paints. Try it out, work with it, see if you like it. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. It'll kind of be a great counterbalance to your watercolor paintings as well, because many professional artists that work with watercolors work with oils too as well. I know that for a fact. So don't kind of think to yourself, I'm a watercolor artist only and I don't work with oils. Again, most professionals that are out there today that are working in watercolors, they're working in oils too, because it really does kind of help the process with painting watercolors. I think when you're working with oils, you can learn more about mixing colors and it also helps you to learn a little more about having a little more time. You can actually learn more about, again, using more colors, more mixes with your colors as you go. So just a little side note there, new watercolor channel, new oil painting channel coming out. I'll put the link below for my new oil painting channel. Hope you'll check it out. But if not, that's okay too. Not everyone wants to work in oils. I can understand that. But even if you check it out and see what it's about, you'll kind of maybe, I think, be interested in it eventually. Okay, so let's come back again. We'll meet up again very, very soon. Thanks for coming by and painting with me. And all of us here, we're having a fun time in watercolor. And see you soon. Bye-bye.